Welcome back to Check In with Chris Brown. I have my friend Craig White here, who is the owner, facilitator, maestro, mastermind, mystic that sits behind Men Without Masks.
Oof.
And I met Craig, first of all, through my work, but then I went on to his retreat in November, which was incredible. Craig's got a vast background in sports, but we've got about an hour together, and I want to pick your brain and get your knowledge as opposed to tell people who you are.
Uh-huh.
But if you're a man watching this, pay close attention because he's doing a lot of amazing work with men. And Men Without Masks is one of the best experiences you could have as a man. So welcome.
Thanks, mate. No pressure. Great introduction. I like the mystic bit, that kind of magical bit. I like being a bit different.
Yeah.
Being a lad from Wigan, raised on a council estate. If somebody calls me mystical, I kind of like it.
Yeah.
It's good
I
to
bet
see.
you didn't though.
No, I didn't. That's actually a good question. We're straight in here, aren't we?
Yeah.
No, if you'd have mentioned the word magic, mystical, spirit to me 20 years ago, I would have just run a mile. I would have just thought you were a weirdo. For sure. But now, the word, it's just a word, but it means different things, doesn't it? Even the word spirit and even spiritual leadership, it means something to me now.
Yeah.
It's like that capacity through meditation, as you know, to access not only this reality, but the formless, what feels kind of like the void, the mystical. It brings a whole new paradigm to life.
Mm-hmm.
And what it means. And I don't know about you, Chris, but since I've been doing meditative kind of practices, while shit still happens, my judgments are less polarized. I'm more present. And, despite the normal challenges of life, for me, life is magical. And I know it's not for a lot of people, but it is now.
Yeah.
Especially as I enter into
and
the
it wasn't
age
for
of
you
50.
and it wasn't for me either. And yeah, I totally agree. I think when you're able to disconnect from the known reality, when you've got your eyes open and you've got people around you, situations and things, and you can train yourself to be in a space and time that doesn't exist, I think it gives you a beautiful, even if it's a 20 or 30 minute escape from every bit of everyday life.
Yeah.
And you can visualize and dream and think about things that don't exist yet.
Yeah.
You're training your body in that moment.
For sure.
And like you say, spiritualism, or to be spiritual, or to be embodied, or to be present, or all of these words, I think are way more accepted now than they've ever been.
Yeah. It is more accepted for me because I've felt something.
Yeah.
I've had those peak experience where I remember meditating on a silent retreat 12 years ago, and there was one stage, it was almost as if I felt someone rip my whole heart open. It was like, fucking hell. And a multitude of those experiences, it changes you.
Absolutely.
When
I was at Joe Dispenza's event about a month ago now, we were doing the energy center meditation. It's just this seven chakras. He doesn't like using the word chakra because of it's another thing. It's a word with stigma, right?
For sure.
So I'm like lying on the floor next to Paul Mort, who an amazing coach, but he's not like, you talk to him about inner child, spiritualism, and he's like very, very triggering for him.
Yeah.
So he's lying next to me, like doing this meditation going, can't keep his mouth shut. My whole body's like this.
Yeah.
And we're both just pissing ourselves laughing, like couldn't stop laughing. And Paul goes to me, he's like, I lifted my mask up at one point. And he was like, you were on full vibrator. I couldn't, every single center throughout I felt. And I think when you have those experiences, like it really makes you think, wow, like what we know as this material world is only a fraction of what is.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. You, to be honest, you've inspired me recently with your posts about the Dispenza week-long intensive.
Yep.
I used to meditate an awful lot in my yoga days, but I've started meditating a lot again, and specifically Joe's Dispenza's meditations. And it's funny actually because I've got into the process of meditating every single morning and evening, and the odd meditation throughout the day. My body started to do the same. Yeah. I'm feeling that electricity again that I've not felt for a while, and it's amazing. It's aliveness.
Yeah, it's really strange because I used to, obviously Martin, who will be on here as well, Martin Bowen, our friend, mutual friend. I was doing a lot of his meditation practices, and for years I've done meditation, but silent.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I went to Joe Dispenza's thing, like I've really lent into his guided meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And there's space for all practice.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I think 20 minutes, 30 minutes, there's different challenges, right? Like I think 20 to 30 minutes in complete silence can be very challenging in and of itself.
Yeah, for sure.
But a guided meditation can help you get into a depth of an hour.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of leading you and it's pulling you through.
Yeah.
So I think, I've been every single day for, I think it's like 30 something days now, I've been meditating 30 to 60 minutes, if not more.
Mm-hmm.
And there will be a time and place where I think you start leaning into silent practices and you lean into different areas of practice. But I mean, we did walking meditations on the Dispenza retreat was unbelievable.
Yeah.
So I think, you know what's good as well? Like you've got a sporting background. I have a sporting background. You know, lads in the dressing room. There is a, I think you were saying, talk to me about spiritualism, I would have run a mile. I think there's a piece of people that's curious, but their fear like pushes them away from it.
100%. I have a view on that. I'm glad we got onto sport because when I do podcasts, sometimes we don't cover sport and you know, it's been with me my whole life. There was a period in my yoga days where I pushed it away, but now I realize it's even sport with the right lens on can be a sacred spiritual practice. So, I mean, especially in rugby, I mean, rugby is my sport. So the rugby players that I get the chance to kind of spend time with in some of my consultancy work, they're a new breed and they're open-minded. It's a generalization, but they're open-minded. The other thing that I found, Chris, especially over the last 4 or 5 years is, so I've been lucky enough over the last over the last 12 years really to work for World Rugby, which is the governing body of rugby. And they send me to kind of different countries around the world that are kind of just below that elite level, like Uruguay and Georgia and Chile and places like that. And like with teams like Uruguay and Chile, I've been lucky enough to experiment. Every time I go in there, it's an experiment. And what I've found is, you know, I've done lots of meditations and breath work with them, and they're fully open to it, and visualizations and work around individual mission and purpose and projecting that into the future, a little bit inspired by Joe Dispenza. But what I've noticed is when I show up absolutely, fully embodied as I am, having experienced this myself, teaching it from that place, guess what? Total buy-in.
Yep.
Even at the start, when the coaches say, "Well, mate, are you sure you want to do this?" I don't think the lads are going to buy in. You know, they've never done anything like this before. Well, mate, just give me a minute. Just give me an hour. You're projecting your own fears onto this.
Absolutely.
When we show up fully as we are, mate, it's infectious. That's leadership.
That's leadership. And it brings me to the one of the biggest things that Joe said at his event. It was like, don't be the preacher, be the prayer.
Yeah.
Like stop. It's like when you go home, don't be preaching about meditation to everyone. Just do it. Be the inspiration for people.
Yeah.
Show them the results of the work. And I think that's what it is. Like it's when you're so present and you've got such depth, people feel you.
Yeah, for sure.
As opposed to just hearing you, like they feel the depth. They feel the weight of what you're bringing and carrying. And I think people just like, they notice it's a little bit different. Their energy's a little bit more centered, grounded. And I think when you get that, there are a few people that you meet in your life like that.
Yeah.
And I think when you feel it, you're like
100%, 1,000,000%. I also read recently, you know, Ido Portal. He said the same thing: become the teaching.
Yeah.
Don't teach, become the teaching.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's certainly my philosophy. I'll never, ever, ever expect someone to do something that I've never done.
Yeah.
I just would never do that.
Well, that's the word embodiment, right? We were touching on it before. We're like, should we talk about embodied leadership? And it's a really difficult word to like describe, but that's what it is. It's like, it's It's the beingness of
Yeah.
the thing that you want to project to the world.
Yeah, for sure. You embody your message.
Mm.
Yeah, a very simple way to explain embodied leadership. I like that.
I think we deem leadership as, because we look to certain leaders, I think it's important to define, like, modern day leadership is much more different to like the patriarchal
Of course.
leadership.
Which was do as I say.
Yeah, do as I say, do as I do. Toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
And I think now to be a respected leader, you've got to be much more well-rounded.
For sure.
You've got to lean into feminine practices, for example.
Yeah. 1,000,000%. One of the models that I kind of use with some of my clients, especially coaches, is when we talk about leadership, is to look at a spectrum that kind of runs from that extreme of the old style of leadership, which you might get some people that still need that, all across to this extreme of intuition, empathic feeling and instinct and reading body language and feeling into presence and trusting what will arise. And in between that, there's a whole host of other kind of leadership skills, if you like, reading people's body language, asking good questions, open questions, feedback skills, and so on and so on and so on. So I think if we have a broad skill set, that is real leadership.
Yeah, because you become the chameleon of the room then, and you can adapt to the people that need certain energies.
For sure.
Especially in sports.
For sure.
Especially in team sports.
Yeah.
Because some people need an arm and other people need a bollocking.
100%.
And it's that knowing which is which
100%.
and not giving the person who needs a shold the bollocking and not giving the person who needs the bollocking the shoulder.
1,000,000%.
I've seen it. I witnessed it in, semi-professional sport, football. I had a very one-dimensional manager who would treat everybody the same. Some people would react to it and other people would go in the shell.
Yeah.
And I think, the day I witnessed my manager slap a fellow teammate, like slap him 6 times in a row. And everyone's just sat there like, what the fuck's going on? We're just kids, like 18-year-old,
Yeah.
And I think you don't get away, like that was 17, 18 years ago. You don't get away with that today.
No, you couldn't do that today. No.
And I think there's a calling for like a new style of leadership. I was listening to, so the rise of the feminine movement, right? The feminism is like toxic masculinity, really. But they had to go to that place to break the patriarchy. And now the new rise of the feminine is the divine feminine.
Uh-huh.
And I think we're in a space and time now where we've got to kind of find where we all fit, because women don't need men for the same reasons they needed them in the past to provide and protect. Those 2 reasons are gone. I mean, women can provide for themselves, and we live in a fairly safe world on the grand scheme of things in comparison.
Yeah.
And so it leaves men in a place of, well, if I'm not providing and I'm not protecting, then what is my role as a man?
For sure. And because everything has a potential polarity in it, one side of that is, oh shit.
Yep.
I'm stuck. I'm useless. I don't have a sense of purpose. And the other side of that is, well, wow, all right. Thank fuck I don't have to be the protector. Thank fuck I don't have to be the alpha.
Yep.
Wow, what else is inside of me? Let's have a dance. Let's get into my body. I don't know. Let's try wearing different clothes. So I think, everything has polarity in it. And I think it's important that in my work that I help men to see that as an opportunity and not a crisis.
Oh, absolutely.
And as you know, on the retreat, we kind of tap into the archetypes just to kind of open up different dimensions within us, different ways of expressing, because I do believe, I have a felt sense that, because I used to be hypermasculine, I do believe that whilst I still have some challenges, mainly in relationship, that in the realm of life because I can access not only the warrior within me, the magician in me, the lover in me, the king in me, and I'm more whole. I just feel more whole, and then I can connect with different personality types. I'm not gravitating to one aspect of society like I used to as a kid, which was just the sports world, the alphas, and life is more magical because of it. And I'm still unraveling parts of myself, as always. Yeah. My missus wants me to wear nail varnish. I've not gone there yet. She wants me to paint my toes. I've not gone there yet. But who knows in the next 5 years?
When you grow up with a daughter, you get all of that treatment. Believe me. It's really interesting because I had this conversation with my clients. You can't warrior your way out of everything.
No.
And this is what most men try to do, right? They push, they pursue, they commit, they dedicate, they try to dominate, kill, win in business, in life, with their partners, with their kids.
Yeah.
And it's just one of the dimensions of energy that we have, but we're so locked into it because it feels safe to access anger or aggression.
Yeah.
When in the reality is like I say, in my life right now, well, I'll give you an example. I have played board games with family members and tipped the entire table over because someone was cheating. Because I couldn't control the outcome. Because it meant that because it would mean that my chances of winning were declining. I was just like, fuck it, I'm not playing anymore.
Yeah.
And that's how it was. We'd get beat on a Saturday afternoon and I'd fucking sit there for like 20 minutes and I just wouldn't speak to anyone.
Of course.
And like, that's no way to live. We can't live that way.
No.
We have to be able to access other areas of ourselves.
Yeah.
And you know, it's so funny because I've been in business so long. I teach structure, schedule, time management, like all of these things. But then I'm like, what does flow look like? What does stillness look like? What does a day with no schedule look like? What does the intuition of like, I need a day to myself look like?
I know this is your podcast, you're interviewing me, but it's so beautiful to see your transformation in the last few years.
Yeah.
From you was a full-on warrior.
Yeah.
Like, it's so beautiful.
No. And largely, I mean, Men Without Masks was like the catalyst for that, I think. It was just like came at the right time. Obviously, the breakdown of my relationship, I think, forced me to like really look at myself. And I think when you are in a place, again, like for me, it was like, if I'm bringing in money, I'm working hard, then that's my role.
Yeah.
And it was very easy for me to leave Danielle at home with the kids and do the housework and the stuff and but equally, like neither of us were like truly happy because of that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like there's more inside of every one of us. And now because of that, I'm a far better father than I was.
Yeah.
You know, not that I wasn't there, but like, now I can be there.
Yeah.
And I mean, Men Without Masks was the catalyst. 1,000% it was.
Yeah, good.
It brought me to a place where I think everybody, from my experience, came to that retreat fully armored up, right?
Here.
Yeah. You're full to the brim of everything. They've got their battle gear on ready, like fight or flight constantly. And you just watched as the week went, like people were like, fucking hell, it's heavy this. Let me just take a little bit of this off.
It's fascinating, isn't it? It's like in that first 5 minutes, it's like 20 men all from different tribes.
Yeah.
Don't fucking come near me, you know? It's like, are you going to invade my tribe? You look all right. I'm not sure about you. And I mean, collectively between us all, to be honest, because we're all in it, aren't we? We break that down pretty quickly, don't we?
Yeah. By the end of day one, you're there.
By the end of day one, sometimes there's still one.
Yeah.
By the end of day one that wants to run away.
Yeah.
But I just hand him over to Matt. He's, as you know, is a great psychotherapist. He calms him down, and then next day we're on. We're in.
I think it's really interesting if I cast my mind back to that day when you're all sitting around, you're kind of sizing every person up. You don't even realize you're doing this, and this is totally innate. But you're like, Yeah, I think he's weak. He's strong. He's fucking. I wouldn't fight him. That was Scano.
Of course.
And
what an incredible mirror for us all, right?
Yeah. By the end of the week, you just just got an abundance of love for every man in the room.
Yeah. And you mentioned embodied. Feeling like your attention is in the body. You can't podcast your way to that.
No.
You can't read your way to that. You've got to do these embodied practices. And I'm guessing that was significant for you at the end of the retreat. Just kind of feeling like, oh wow, it's okay to be in my body. It's safe here.
Yeah. It's so funny to think back to that time, because I'm very logical, very self-proclaimed, but I'm intelligent and I'm in the intellect a lot. Remember, Matt said to me in one of our breathwork sessions, he's like, I can't meet you at your intellect, otherwise you'll just run around me. He's like, I'm not going to be of use to you if we meet intellect to intellect.
Magician.
Yeah. And so, and that's what I've done my entire life. I've controlled outcomes in situations. So for me, with Matt, I could talk my way out of doing the breath work and the embodiment practices and going deep. I could rationalize, negotiate. And it's all strategies that we just develop through our lives.
Of course.
To control and manipulate situations and outcomes.
Because we think that's what gives us love.
Absolutely. And that's been the big thing for me. Now I have, all I can describe it as like a calm presence, which is a deep trust that no matter what, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
Where before I didn't have that.
Yeah.
I had more anxiety than I realized I had before I went to Men Without Masks. I was carrying that for years, and I wouldn't describe myself as an anxious person.
Yeah. I'm calm as a cucumber in every component of my life, apart from when my missus says to me, you're not feeling me. You don't feel me. And then it's like, oh man, I've done all this work. Oh, come on. But no.
Well, that's still the masculine in you that wants to run away from that. Of course. And he wants to end that feeling, that emotion. Where's the eject
button?
That's the
nemesis for me.
Yeah.
Holding myself in a place of presence when I'm being judged by a woman.
Yeah.
That's my place of growth. That's the right there.
And I remember you saying, one of your videos I watched, the cold water teaches you, that's what you use as an intention when you go into the cold, is to be with that extreme discomfort. That's the feminine. Yeah. That's the chaos.
Yeah.
That's the discomfort. And if I can teach myself to be calm here, I can teach myself to be calm in that place.
Yeah, water is such a beautiful, beautiful element that we can use as a metaphor to release control. Really. Just release control of any situation. Water's incredibly powerful for that reason.
I think it's extremely uncomfortable though. If you try to fight the cold and you try to tense up and hold, it becomes...
It's a practice of what I like to call forced presence. If you meditate, or meditate at 6 a.m, and I'm going to do that for 6 weeks, so that's like a formal practice.
Yeah.
But something like the cold, it forces you to regulate your own nervous system so that you can enter a state of presence. Otherwise, your mind just talks you out of it.
Yep.
A sweat lodge is the same.
So
walking on a tightrope
talk to me about that.
Is the same. Something that has a little bit of fear attached to it kind of forces presence, or you're off.
The last sweat lodge that I did with Martin on level 4 was fucking the most horrendous thing that I've ever been.
Mini death.
Yeah.
Beautiful though, eh?
Yeah, extremely hard. I actually, the third round in silence, I was lying on the floor, literally, and I was like, fucking hell, John, how much longer? I could, honestly, I was...
Yeah. And when the guys in the last round are sharing, it's like, fucking hurry up.
Hurry up, yeah. Fucking hurry up.
Yeah.
The shares start really deep and spiritual in the sweat lodge. There's 4 rounds, if you don't know what it is, 4 rounds, north, east, south, west. I don't know which order they go in. But by the time you get to the end, the beautiful shares that are elaborate in the start are like one word. I'm grateful. Next.
I mean, if you're open-minded, check out the Sweat Lodge, John Wilson. Fascinating journey.
Sweat Lodge, John. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that shook me up for a good 2 weeks after that last one I had.
I bet.
Took me a long time to come around from that, I think.
I've seen the biggest transformations on retreat. The hotter the sweat lodge is, the more extreme it is. I've seen the biggest transformations.
Yeah, I agree.
It's almost as if there's a purging happening, and when the guy comes out, it's like, oh, so much sense of release, so much sacredness and humbleness. Really.
Yeah, because
it humbles you, doesn't it?
Massively, because you battle it. You realize how much you want to exit uncomfortable situations. So you realize very quickly like how hyper vigilant your nervous system is.
Yeah.
This is uncomfortable. I need to get out.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable. I need this to end. I need this to stop. This is uncomfortable. Same thing with cold water. It's the same thing, but the opposite. And I don't know which one's worse. I'm still yet to figure out which one is more uncomfortable.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's the hypervigilance of your nervous system and just realizing like, wow, that if I put myself into a place of extremity that brings the thoughts to the surface, then I'm dealing with this on some low residue level every single day without the awareness, because we're not forcing it to the surface. And I think for me, that's what the practice of meditation, the embodiment stuff, cold water, sweat lodges has done, is like made me realize what was already existing and driving my every action, behavior, thought, behave, like, yeah. And it's
it's a beautiful practice.
It's interesting when you adopt stillness, things rise to the surface. When you put yourself into extreme discomfort, but in I'd say, so the masculine's way of putting themselves into discomfort is doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It doesn't take much to beast a bunch of rugby guys or
of course
to
action.
Yeah, exactly. To put them into warrior. But the thing with cold water and the thing with the sweat lodge is it's actually a place of being.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's discomfort, but from being as opposed to doing, which is a very different dynamic to be in.
For sure. Into the unknown.
Yeah. It's hard. So with Men Without Masks.
Yeah.
I want to know what was your like catalyst? So that I know a little bit of your background with the yoga stuff. You went into yoga, you went away from rugby, but what made you realize like, okay, this doesn't exist. It is upon me to guide these men, because it's a noble act to do it. I mean, yes, it's a business. Yes, it's, every business exists to make money. Yet it's 5 days away from your loved ones. The commitment by you all. Matt's leaving his wife and kids behind. Martin's leaving his, partner, girl, and his little girl behind. You're away from your partner. Dave's away from his kids. Johnny's away from his family.
Yeah.
Whoever else, the men in the room are away from their families, and
without the phone.
Yeah, without a phone, that's a big thing. So to go to that level, there's obviously a drive in you, like a. I'm going to say this, like, because I think men feel this, like life's a burden sometimes, and like it's a responsibility. It's like I have to do this. No one's doing this. I have to do it.
Yeah, of course.
Can you remember the distinct time?
Yeah, I can. I mean, it arose from pain, really, but the pain projected me into a different direction. Probably about 12 years ago, I had a midlife crisis. I thought it was a crisis at the time, but it was just a doorway opening. And I went on a yoga retreat for a month in Thailand. I'd never done yoga before. It was full on, proper yoga. And so much practice and stillness and breath work and purging and purification practices. And I just realized that there was more to life than this.
Yep.
I realized that I'd been wearing masks and I wasn't really showing my full self. I'd just been operating as this capable warrior and nothing else.
Yep.
I realized so much love within me that I hadn't accessed. And I realized that there was so much anger in me and repressed sadness in me. And it just took me on an intense journey of self-discovery, I was intense, fascinated to just know about myself. And that took me to deeper yoga retreats and meditation in darkness and fasting on water for 21 days and solo retreats and hikes and hallucinogenics and ayahuasca and all sorts of stuff, and exploring movement practices to open me up to different ways of moving, different ways of thinking, different ways of feeling. And about 8 years ago, I was working as a consultant in rugby, but I hated it. But I was blaming rugby for my pain instead of owning it. It was like, rugby's this, rugby's that, rugby's egoic. I don't want to work in rugby. And I didn't want to work in rugby. And I remember saying to myself, I've done. But at the same time, I was working with a coach. It's like, what the fuck am I going to do? What can I do? So it helped me to pull all the pieces together. And it was evident that I'd been comfortable around men since I was 8. I'd always been the captain of sports teams. I'd always wanted to kind of lead from the front. I think I could create safety in a short space of time. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to bring all my experiences into some kind of retreat process, because I'm intense and I like intensity. And anybody that knows me, that comes on a retreat with me or a coaching program, knows that I won't just tickle the surface.
Yep.
You're diving in without your phone, and that's it.
Yep.
And I believe in transformation, not education. So it arose from that, really, and I created it, and it took a while to build it up, and it took a while, as you know, through your own business, it takes a while to build a business and generate momentum and interest and get bums on seats. But over that time, actually, over the last 8 years, because Memory Like Mass, the idea of Memory Like Mass was kind of born after I trained with an organization called the Mankind Project, mm-hmm. who worked with this map of the archetypes. And I just thought, you know what? I'm going to create my own movement. I'm going to kind of loosely use that model and change it and tweak it and make it my own. We actually call it the 5 archetypes now. The 5th archetype is the center.
Nice.
And just weave all my experiences into it and create magic, create like a theater. It's not therapy, it's not coaching, it's more like theater. And but as I was saying, over the past 8 years, I've also integrated so many different aspects within me that now I don't see this is rugby consultancy. This is like my high performance stuff. Mm-hmm. And this is Memory That Mass. This is like my hippie side. It's just all one.
Yeah.
You know, whereas I used to split it. I used to say, well, on Memory That Mass, I can't say that because the rugby people will think I'm weird. And it was just fucking utter stupidity.
Still masking in ways.
Of course, I wasn't being authentic.
Yeah.
But now it's just all one.
You surrendered, basically.
I love working with men because I'm good at it.
Yeah.
I couldn't work with a group of men because I'm not good at it. And that's still my edge of growth. Mm-hmm. I'll admit that. Mm-hmm. But I'm fucking good with men, you know, and cultivating safety and exhibiting different parts of myself, the warrior, being vulnerable, showing my softness, showing my flow ability. And there's been huge growth in that for me. And I'd like to think there's huge growth in that for men. And it's also a win-win for me. I believe, you know, sometimes as coaches, facilitators, we can become martyrs, can't we? Like, it's just about giving. That's rubbish. For me, you're smart. If it's a win-win, you're smart. Mm-hmm. And for me, my work is a win-win.
Well, of course.
Because every time I'm facilitating a retreat, I'm on the retreat as well. I learn something every single time I do a retreat. And that's magnificent. And what it also does for me, it gives me a deep, deep, deep embodied sense of brotherhood, which relates to my own wounding. Because my brother's 12 years older than me and he went in the army when I was 8.
Yeah.
And it's like, fucking God left me.
Yeah.
And I had a kind of stormy relationship with him growing up as well. There's kind of teasing me and bullying me, and it was kind of, I guess that was my stuff growing up, you know. Yeah. We all have some stuff, don't we? So when he went in the army, I've always sought out brotherhood. it's much of a blessing for me. And I get that from the retreats.
Yeah. And I think from the outside in, what makes you a great facilitator of that is that you have got that, like the rugby stoic masculine side to you that I think men respect, because some of these people are signed up by their wives. They sign up and they're like, fucking this is no, I'm pretty open-minded. I'm really into self-development, but some people, I mean, guy Jeff flew in from the States. It was the first, he'd never even read a book on self-development.
Yeah. And his wife said, hey, do that or we're done.
He turns up in the middle of, he turns up to Broughton Hall from the States just after the pandemic, and he's just round a bunch. I mean, it was unbelievable. Like the fact that he traveled all that way. And I think to be in that environment, it requires somebody like you for him to open up to, just because he trusts, all right, Craig's not a woo-woo spiritual, too in the feminine, too. And I think the big lesson is that it's just fucking regular men doing this work.
Of course.
Just normal dudes. Normal dudes who like a beer with their friends and a night out doing this work because they want to see the change in the way in which men show up.
Do you know, I got some strong messages from women actually before I created Men Without Masks. And this is related to what you just said. So I was on my own spiritual journey once, and I used to go to Thailand, doing yoga, teaching yoga in Mexico, wearing white. And I was loving it on the beach. And I remember a few times after people saw me teach, or I did a training, or some kind of retreat, often women would say to me, mate, you've got to go back to the north of England and you've got to take off your white clothes and you've got to teach this stuff in simple format to normal men. And I'm like, nah, I love it here. I love traveling around the world, which I still do. But I kept getting those messages. And it's not easy making, I guess, the esoteric stuff sound simple, but I'd like to think I do a decent job of that. So I guess,
it's a hard sell at times, because you're asking men to do stuff that. I had a good conversation with Matt. He came to my jiu-jitsu competition on Saturday, and we were talking about how people using their trauma and their pain to fuel their business performance, their sporting performance, their career.
Of course.
And people don't know who they would be without that.
Yeah.
So their ability to get fired up and angry because of their pain and their trauma is something that they've utilized to get success.
Of course.
But they don't realize there's an alternative way to fuel that success other than anger and pain.
Yeah.
And what I call dirty energy.
Yeah.
It's what I've been aware of. Like I was driven by filling a void that would never be filled. Where now it's a much cleaner, surrendered energy now and a flow. And I think it's not an easy sell.
No.
To tell a man to let go of all of these traits that make you successful but limited.
Yeah.
In a direction that feels completely alien, that has potential to unlock you to new growth. Yet that anger is going to go away and it's going to dissipate. And
No, it's tough. But even in the space of 3 years since I met you, it's easier now. I mean, I'm booked up with my clients. The retreats are filling up. You've been helpful with that as well. And we're living in a fascinating time where certainly the men, I mean, I'm not disowning that there's still violence in the world and we've all got a role to play in that because we are men. Even though we might not think we're violent, we are men and we have to own up to that. But I'm seeing a lot of men transform and change for the right reasons. And it's fucking amazing. And so in my world, in my reality, I'm seeing magic. And I know not everybody can see that, but there's definitely in the work that we do magic happening. and real transformation.
Real transformation,
happening.
yeah.
Because we can all go on a retreat, can't we? But what happens after that? So yeah, I don't want to. My gift to this world is I don't want to bring anything into the world that it's just educating people. I want it to lead to transformation, and I believe as men. I mean, you've just been on a retreat where you were meditating for like 7 hours a day, and as men, we need intensity. We need a fucking sledgehammer.
We do.
We need each other, because the level of brotherhood that we experience on the retreat, correct me if I'm wrong, is so much deeper than you and I have ever experienced with a team sport. It's on a whole new level that men have never felt before. And the level of blessing that we get from each other, for me, it's not a replacement, but the level of blessing being seen by 20 odd other men over 5 days fully is a pretty good replacement for the blessing that most men didn't receive from the father energy growing up. We need that father energy that we can all give from each other, and it's like a feast of blessing. And men leave with far more confidence than what they came with.
Even with the greatest father in the world, they're one person. They can't possibly give you everything that you require. And when you've got a group of people that can give you different things, and in the retreat, you see a fatherly energy in somebody else. You see a loving energy in someone else. You see a leadership energy in someone else, and what you find is over the week, you're like, he's a really good father. Like, I'll take a little bit of that. He's really strong and resilient. I'll take a little bit of that.
Where else do you get that in the world?
Yeah, you don't. Even in sport, you mentioned a replacement for sport, but most team sports, the unity of the team is based on fear.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's not based on love.
Yeah.
It's not based on connection. It's not based on trust.
No. Growth in adversity.
Yeah.
Which is a domain that's worth going into. There's a bit of that on retreat, but really, the retreat's about love, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Hey.
It's such a...
And if you're a man that is triggered by that, well, come on. Maybe you need to step up.
And the only reason you'd be triggered by the thought of being in an environment with love, with men, is because you fear it. And sometimes what you fear is what you know you need. And it's the avoidance of that thing. Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, my own situation, any time that I would get into a conversation, still now, I still find this difficult. In an intimate conversation with a woman around relationship, I'm like looking for the panic button, the eject, right? I'm looking for like, how do I like, beam me up, Scotty, like just, where's the, like, let me go. I'm busy. I've got a meeting.
Yeah.
I've got to go. Now's not the right time. Yeah. And we're very good at avoiding, and the feminine beings in our lives are very triggering in that way, because they're swimming in emotion.
Yeah, of course.
And as a man, I can tell if you're listening to this and you've had that situation with your feminine partner, all that they demand from you is your presence. They demand your energy. They demand your feeling. And that's not an easy place to be. No. And I thought I was in a relationship I'd be in for the rest of my life. And then one day, boom, it's gone. Yeah. And I didn't realize the gaps. I didn't have awareness of the blind spots. I didn't know where I wasn't showing up. And thankfully now, through the work that I've been doing over the last couple of years, and most of the last 12 months has been really intense since Men Without Masks, I can see, like, I'm okay to hold my hand up and I'm responsible here. Yeah. I can see where I wasn't emotional, and I'm still trying now. Like, I'm not perfect. I'm fucking still trying my hardest now to feel, and not just feel, because I think as men we can feel. It's not the feeling that's the problem. Vulnerability is not crying. Vulnerability is not feeling. Vulnerability is feeling and explaining the feeling.
Yeah.
So feeling afraid and being like, I'm afraid.
Yeah, for sure.
and just being there, and that's it.
Yeah.
Not trying to.
Well, that's beautiful. If you
go
can do
beyond
it, for
that.
sure.
Yeah. Like I feel scared.
Yeah, and being present with the
staying there.
uncomfortableness.
Yeah, because I feel scared, so then we try to move past that very quickly.
Yeah. I wish we'd have done this 2 days ago. It would have helped me in a little bit of an interaction that I had recently with my partner. But
yeah,
all good.
I remember on Saturday, Paul Moore sent me a text message just before my jiu-jitsu competition. He was like, how'd you feel? The old me would have been, yeah, I'm sound. And I was like, honestly, a little bit scared. In almost that in itself.
Yeah.
Almost I'm scared, but I'll be okay. No, I was just honestly, I feel a bit scared.
That's really beautiful to do before a sporting competition because it releases something inside of your body.
Yeah.
A friend of mine was a coach of an international rugby team, and they lost in the semi-final. I think it was the Olympic Sevens. And he said to me, Craig, the lads were shit scared in the dressing room. If we had had a check-in of what you're scared of before we went out, we'd have won that game.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're not acknowledging where you're at. You're trying to be somewhere else.
For sure.
You're trying to bypass where you're at, and I think anytime you do that, it's not useful at all.
Yeah.
And so to be there and be scared, I was fine. And then Matt asked me, he's like, how are you? I'm like, I'm a little bit nervous, if I'm honest. Do you mind if we get out of the competition room and go for a walk? And the second my feet touched the mat, though, I was like, that's it. I mean, so present. That was also a lesson. All of my fear was being out of the body and in the head. Yeah. I wasn't feeling where I was at. I wasn't being in the moment. I was future casting to what might be. I think we do that a lot.
Yeah.
It's just be where you're at, whatever that is.
Yeah, for sure.
And you know what? Like, we talk about the negative emotions, but we have a hard time being with the positive emotions at times as well.
Of course.
If we're happy, we're experiencing joy. That word used to trigger me, by the way. Joy.
Really?
Yeah. Because I'm like, joy. Like,
wow.
The same way, like love, I guess, could trigger a man.
Yeah. We're just taught the wrong messages, aren't we? We're taught that joy is juicy and pleasurable and it feels all kind of dopamine-ish, and we're taught that if you don't experience that every single day, there's something wrong. I mean, emotions are the juice of life, aren't they?
And at the end of the day, that's all we're actually ever seeking, is to feel something.
Yeah, for sure.
So we want to buy the mansion because we want to feel what it would feel like to have the mansion. We want the car because we want to feel what it would feel like to have that. And so, I mean, this is the work of Joe Dispenza. If you can train yourself to feel and experience the experience before it ever happens, you train your body to feel that emotion in the moment, then you can have the experience of having it without having it. And when you do that in the quantum, it will show up in the material world afterwards.
100%.
And ultimately what you do and you realize is, in my meditation practice, it's not about, I want to build a business that's X amount per month or X amount per year, or I want this kind of house. I've transitioned to I want abundance and freedom and I want choice. And so then the experiences show up as how they should show up, instead of trying to control the amount of money that you're going to make, control the house you're going to buy.
Control your vision.
Exactly, yeah.
And have a huge vision statement on your whiteboard.
Yeah. It's just...
I did exactly the same.
Just feel what you want to feel. And you'll realize very quickly that actually I can feel this without having anything.
Yeah.
And then when you train your body that way every day, the things that used to bother you no longer bother you.
Yeah.
The things that you're afraid of, you're no longer afraid of. I went away on holiday last week with the kids. It was the first time I've been away. This will please you. The first time I've been away ever where I haven't been shit scared about what was going to happen to me business.
No, well, that's a shift for you.
Massive. I told you that, Craig, I can't do this retreat.
Yeah,
I can't take 7 days off. The last holiday I went on, 2019, was with the family. It was in Tenerife, and I had to keep taking myself off for periods of time on my own, just so I could come back present. I'd have to disappear for an hour, come back. Like, even the simple thing of playing with the kids for extended periods of time around the pool was difficult.
Couldn't be present. I mean, what does that say about you? But also, what does that say about your business?
Yeah. Well, exactly, yeah.
If you can't take a week off from your business.
What I realized, it wasn't actually the business, it was my thoughts around the business and my fuel. So like being fueled by fear and attachment.
Yeah.
Being almost codependent with the business.
Yeah. And maybe a fear of real intimacy as well.
Definitely, yeah. So yeah, it was just a magic play. It was just in a complete surrender and flow, and just like things that would trigger me before or like piss me off, I was just laughing off and
great.
Tussling with life.
Great. Good for your kids.
Massive, yeah. My daughter's at a funny age right now. She's 13 and she's very resistant to love.
Oh.
And that's unfair.
Is that because she wants to be independent?
She's not resistant to love at all. But she's at a space and time where she's just, she's her own person.
Of course.
And me grabbing her and hugging her, and she's like, get off me.
Yeah. She wants to be independent.
Yeah, absolutely. And she's an amazing girl with an amazing mind. It took a lot because she's very, strong feminine character. It took a lot for me to like not react to certain things, to be present with it, to realize that like my role as the masculine in that is to hold that, to show her how a man can hold space for her energy and her emotions. And she had a very emotional development stage of her life. And so I think when you make it less about what that means about you and more about how do you hold that energy, there's a lot of growth that can come from that.
Yeah.
It was a nice lesson, to be honest.
Yeah. Good lesson.
Yeah. I think daughters teach you a lot.
I haven't got one, but I can imagine.
Yeah. Because they're actually the only, it's the feminine that you're attached to for the rest of your life regardless, right?
Yeah.
You know? And they can say things to you that probably no other woman on the planet can say. They can treat you in ways that no other woman on the planet can treat you. Which is, it's magic. So you're about to go on retreat?
Yeah, we've got a retreat on Saturday, actually. I can't wait to dive into it. I'm ready for it. Yeah, it's just when I'm facilitating groups, time disappears and I'm just in flow completely. It's a wonderful place to be.
Well, other than like being at a space and time within the retreat, time does just vanish, and it makes you realize how much you're trying to manage your life based on time day to day. What are you most looking forward to this retreat? Obviously, every retreat gets better. What are you most excited about?
Just witnessing transformation. With every retreat, if you'd have met me 15 years ago, I wasn't the most compassionate person on the planet. I really wasn't. I didn't even know what it meant because I couldn't feel it. Compassion comes from it, doesn't it? I couldn't feel any of it. And
you mean when people give you like an excuse for something or like a reason why they didn't do something?
Yeah, I just didn't have compassion.
Yeah.
My inner woman was relegated to the shadows. And since doing the retreats, it's just fucking so humbling to see men open up and express repressed emotions from the past. It's just incredible. And it just brings me to my knees. And as a result of that, I'm just more compassionate. So with every single retreat, I become a little bit more compassionate and empathic to others, which I never used to be. So I'm looking forward to witnessing incredible transformations and feeling the emotion of that and feeling the oneness of that as well. As you've been on it, when every man kind of expresses parts that maybe he didn't express before and reclaims his birthright, really, and expresses himself without giving a fuck what other people think of him. It's just, we all benefit from that. It's like one energy. We all feel that. So I'm looking forward to deeper transformations. Every single retreat goes deeper and deeper and deeper. I'm looking forward to how deep this can go.
Yeah, and I think that those are the things that men don't realize. Like just to be able to be held by, there'd be obviously some things, but there's very little that people could share in that room that wouldn't be held. And I was speaking from my own experience, like carrying shame and guilt for a long time around certain situations, and I think men carry a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, partly societally. But to witness the men release that in a space, and you might have seen Craig raise his hand before. That's one of the things we do at retreat. So if somebody says something and someone else has experienced it, you raise your hand, and every single person that was holding on to something, like their life depended on it. Like if they shared this thing, the world would fall to pieces around them.
For sure.
They share this thing, and then every man in the room puts their hand up.
Yeah.
And that in itself is very, very,
of course,
like releasing. It's very healing. It's very humbling. Like, oh, fucking hell.
Yeah.
My ego believed that I was the only person on the planet to be dealing with this.
Of course, it's not only me.
Yeah. Which we can believe at times.
Yeah, it's very powerful. Especially around the sexual stuff. Really, really powerful. We carry so much sexual shame as men.
Yeah, when you teenager, wanking off. Hiding in in private, trying not to get caught.
Yeah, porn, objectifying women.
Yeah, I mean, porn's not been a part of my life now for 18 months, 2 years now. Completely let it go. It's the best thing I ever did. Anytime I tell any man, they're like, what the fuck do you do? I'm like, not that.
Meditate, go for a walk, read a book.
Exactly, Retain that energy for like when it's required.
Of course.
It's the most powerful energy that we have. It's a life source.
Of course.
And it's, without shame and porn in and of itself, maybe it has a place in life, but I began to see it through a different lens and started to see trauma in that entire thing.
Yeah.
And then I started to have more compassion towards that entire industry. And then started to, I noticed in my own mind, like when I'd see women, it was like an objectifying thing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a nice, it was a shameful kind of energy.
Yeah.
For sure.
And the whole industry, really, it feeds men's lack of commitment to intimacy. I mean, we believe we can be intimate with a woman on a screen, and it's just taking our energy away from real intimacy.
Well, yeah. Most people are just, when they're having sex, they're just wanking off inside of a woman.
Of course.
There's not connection, it's not intimacy, it's not depth.
Of course. That was me until the age of 39, 40.
Yeah.
Until I got on the yoga scene and I kind of learned a little bit more about my body and the inner woman and how to relate to women and tantra and sacred dance and sacred practices around sexuality. Yeah, I ain't got a clue how to make love to a woman until I was about 40.
Yeah.
Something in the last 10 years where I think I'm a bit more compassionate and present.
Even you just saying that, like most people, most men would have that fear. Most men aren't willing to have this conversation. It's probably a depth we could go into, I think, at another time, like a real deep dive into sex and intimacy. Something we all struggle with, because really you're giving your heart. You're just going, here's my heart, take it, stamp all over it if you want to. And as the warrior, we protect it and we armor it up and and that's it. I mean, we actually prevent ourselves from getting the very thing that we want and need and desire.
We do. Which is unfortunate because, sexual union, however that might look, intimacy, touch, it's the ultimate meditation. It's the ultimate practice of presence. It really is. Even to massage your partner and create a ceremony around it and hold presence and be slow and feel every single touch and breathe with her or him, of course, if you're in a gay relationship. It's just, it's certainly broadened my horizons, definitely, because I hadn't got a clue until I was 40. Not a clue.
Well, I actually, when my relationship broke down with Danielle, I thought it was a sex problem. Like, we think that it's that. It's not that. It's a connection. It's an intimacy. It's a trust. It's a... Yeah. And what we don't realize as men is like, men think that good sex is about the doing, the function of it.
Yeah.
Where the reality is, like, now I'm no expert here by any means, but I only aim to be better in all areas of my life. And I think it's like you say, breath, slowness, slow the thing down, like the whole time frame of everything.
Of course.
It takes a lot for men to contain that energy.
It takes a lot. It takes a lot. It's a big area for sure. Because as you say, it's not about the doing. We're conditioned to think it's about the doing. We're conditioned to think it's about the performance. Yet, in my own life, and I'm in a heterosexual relationship, you know, if I want to open up my partner and feel her immense fucking goddess expression of energy, the full force of the feminine, which is incredible, the only way that's going to happen is if she feels my presence. Women get turned on by our presence. And not only genital penetration, but penetration of the eyes, the penetration of our beautiful words, penetration of our heart, penetration of our breath, and the penetration of our fucking pure presence. And geez, that's been a journey for me, and it continues.
Yeah.
You know, there was a time about 8 years ago where I even worked with a sexuality coach because I ain't got a fucking clue. I ain't got a clue.
And that's, you know, most men learn from porn.
Of course.
We're not taught anything.
Of course.
We're taught how to put a condom on a carrot. Like, we're not taught, you know, what intimacy is or.
Yeah. I mean, if we put our hands on someone else's body, it's, you know, surely that's sacred, isn't it?
Oh,
it's sacred space.
And to know that somebody is allowing us to be that intimate with them, you know.
We definitely need more. I mean, there's some men out there doing some great work in this area. It's definitely an area that I want to go deeper into. I have had a journey with it, but it's definitely an area where I want to go deeper because I guess normal guys like us, we need to step up. We need to not be afraid to talk about sexuality.
We do. I mean, that's why any opportunity that I get to speak about it or the porn thing, like I want to vocalize it because I want at this stage of my life, I want my life to be permission for other people to speak about this stuff. And if it takes my mild discomfort of talking about something. And
it's a huge edge for someone like you and me. We've been raised to be the alpha.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, but it's needed. There's a lot to be said. You know, maybe we'll do a retreat down the line just on this. You know, just on sexuality, where as you know, we cover it on the retreat, but maybe we do a 5-day retreat on this. I mean, that's amazing work, isn't it?
Well, it's like, you know, it's the magic of a relationship, right? It's like it's a place where truly you're in the body. You have to be in the body.
Yeah.
You know, physiologically, you have to be in the body. And I think women are starving for men to do this work.
Of course.
And
they want union. And we want union.
Yeah, we do, yeah.
And not just that union, you know, there's so many ways to polarize between man and woman, that not only the penetrative genital side of it. So yeah, it's a huge piece. I'm glad we brought it up.
Yeah, there's so much to it as well. Like the spectrum of everything, and I think it all comes together, like meditation, the practice of being still, being with your thoughts, being able to, the thing that I'm doing right now is to notice that my thoughts are like the feminine, right? The chaos. And just being able to sit and be, and that's kind of the masculine energy with holding and containing the chaos of my mind, the structure that holds the chaos. And then how that translates into every single other area of your life. And I just think we're at such an exciting point in time where we can actually speak about this stuff.
Me too. And as we speak about it, I'm already having thought thoughts going through my mind. I mean, wouldn't it be great to do a 21-day retreat?
Yeah.
Not retreat as in you have to do things every single day, but like a 21-day immersion for men where we did everything. We covered everything.
In depth.
In depth. A full-on presence retreat in nature, no phone for 21 days.
It's a wild concept. I'm glad you just mentioned that again, because that was the one thing I was going to say about the retreat. I've never experienced in my life the presence of people in my adult life ever for 5 days with no phones.
Yeah.
Because I've had periods of time in my life where I've been conscious of my phone and the impact that would have, and I'd put it out the way or leave it at home. But you can't expect that of everyone else.
Yeah.
And so whilst almost sometimes I'll be like, I haven't got my phone, I'm just sitting here like in the ego, like all proud of myself while other people are sat on their phone. And yeah, I think by like lunchtime day 2, when everyone stopped reaching, everyone's like reaching for their phone every 3 seconds and they realize it's not there. You're actually at dinner having food together and actually having a conversation, which is, it's not like, have you seen this thing or look at this thing or watch this video? It's
not fucking bullshit conversation.
Yeah, it's like, you're there, you've got nothing else to distract you and take you away from the present moment, just to be with each other.
And show
that in
interest
itself
in
is
each other.
nourishing.
Of course.
Of course. That's the big thing. That was the thing I came back and people asking me how it was. And I was like, you know what? It was amazing to actually be with people and not be distracted by phones.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just seeking it just plays further into the avoidance of whatever.
Of course.
Not that we weren't doing it before phones, but the device attached to us all of the time.
Yeah. One of the pitfalls of society these days, isn't it? We're the advertising companies spend billions on making us addicted to our phones, don't they?
Absolutely.
It's tough.
It's magic as well. Like I do like that if it wasn't for phones, we wouldn't have an ability to transmit a message like this.
Of course, yeah.
So we have that side of it, but there's two sides of the coin, and I think it's about using it and not being used by it. Use the platform. Like I get a lot of value from Instagram, but also I can find myself in an endless scroll, and you'll never find your hopes and dreams at the bottom of that scroll.
No.
So coming to the end of the episode, Craig, is there anything that, as you've got a platform to share, I know how I am when I'm getting ready for an event, kind of start to piece all the pieces together in my mind, and it's all, coming together. Where's your mind at going into the event now?
I'm present and I never take anything for granted. But, history today, I'm organized. I'm super organized in relation to the retreat already. But from history today, it would tell me that, if we're all present, it'll be magic again. So I'm more kind of thinking about the future, to be honest. Even this conversation is just kind of stimulating a few ideas. And as you know, I'm taking a group of men to Peru next year for 10 days on the King Retreat or the Sovereign Retreat, and to the Sacred Valley of the Incas.
To say no to that,
10 days, which includes a trek to Machu Picchu, which close to my heart. I've been to that area a number of times. So I'm looking forward to that. And again, for me, that corridor, the Sacred Valley of the Incas that leads to Machu Picchu, it's one of the most potent energetic centers on the planet.
I know.
So my reason is because even if we don't do anything, it's just an inspirational, sovereign type of place that brings us to our knees in awe. So I'm looking forward to doing more things like that. I'm even thinking about this 21-day immersion, and also in the future I want to create a men's coaching accreditation, but it'll be solid, it'll be intense for a year, so we can really create some solid men's coaches. And there's a calling in me eventually I remember speaking to Matt Gunn about this, to do something with men and women as well. Like a retreat around connection, connection to self, connection to consciousness, connection to each other. Maybe a 3-day retreat or a 5-day retreat, because that's obviously required as well. The reason I'm saying retreats, Chris, is because I just love face-to-face. That's where I'm in my power.
Yep.
Even my one-on-one clients now, most of them come and see me in Hebden Bridge where I live. I love that because we walk, we talk, we get out in the hills. Sometimes we cold water swim. And then we get in the meeting room and bring things to life. And there's meditation in it. Sometimes there's embodiment in it. Sometimes it's more kind of logical, kind of vision, mission, purpose work and values and all that. And I just love to work in that way. And I have a few clients on Zoom, but moving forwards, I've got a busy year next year because it's the Rugby World Cup and I'm doing a lot of work with Chile and Uruguay and trying to write a book as well on Men Without Masks book. So I'm busy next year. Men Without Masks won't grow a lot next year, but the year after that is going to be an exciting year where I want to do a lot more retreats because that's where I'm in my power.
Well, I think I've experienced arguably 2 of the most powerful retreats that I could have ever seeked out over the last year. Men Without Masks and then Joe Dispenza's week-long advanced. And it is, I'm not going to say it's impossible. It's very, very difficult to cultivate the energy that's required that can be created in a container like that. Yeah, there's no way I'm meditating 35 hours without the influence of the container. There's no way that you're being as present and embodied as you could. I mean, even the possibility of having your phone in the room at the nighttime of the retreat, the temptation's there to be on. Nobody would be doing it.
Yeah.
And I think that close-knit container is just required for deep growth and transformation. It just is. Yeah. And you have to escape from your everyday life.
Of course.
Joe Dispenza said it was hilarious. He was like, please, while you're away this week, he's like, change your voicemail, leave your phone for a little while, do what you got to do. Put a note on your voicemail. I'm away on a retreat for 7 days. I'm making some changes. And if I don't get back to you, you're one of them.
I like that.
And it's so fascinating that we orientate our life in many ways. And I think the retreat just allows you to step back from that and be who you want to be. You're around a bunch of strangers that don't even know who you are.
Of course. I mean, of course, it's only the start. After the retreat, the regularity of the practice is critical, which some men forget. But it's definitely, in my experience of doing lots of these retreats, it definitely creates the platform for change.
I agree.
100%. If you're in midlife, you haven't got time for 10 years of therapy.
Nope.
The world needs you to step up now.
And it's not, the thing with therapy, it's helpful, but you're missing the training of your nervous system. You're missing the things that you didn't get. I heard Gabor Mate say the other day that trauma is not things that happen to you. Trauma is the things that you are missing from your life that you should have had. And I think the retreat is a place in which it gives you the love, the unconditional love that maybe you were missing, the blessing from other men. Matt said something to me. You're starting to finally meet the man in the mirror. And I was like, it didn't get it. I'm like, still, many of us are still still a child in a man's body.
Of course.
And I think it gives you that initiation from boy to man.
Yeah, it's definitely initiation for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. And the magic is, I mean, you just mentioned trauma there, and some men do come with a truckload of trauma, but some men don't. Some men just want to be a better father because they've got a kid on the way, or they want to be a better husband, or they want to change the business. And the magic is in that room. There's just all walks of life.
Absolutely.
And from a sales perspective, it's not easy because it's like, where's our niche?
Yeah.
But
What is it you do? How, like, what's the benefit? That's what we want, logic.
But the diversity of each man on that retreat is the magic.
Yeah, exactly. So where can people find out about Men Without Masks?
People can check out Men Without Masks on our website, menwithoutmasks.com. You can find Men Without Masks on Instagram, Facebook. I think we're even on LinkedIn.
Got a podcast.
And we've not got a podcast yet.
You haven't?
No.
I thought you've done episodes, haven't you?
No. We've done some post-retreat ones, but it's not official yet. And you can find more about my mentoring work on craigwhitementoring.com, and you can find Craig White Mentoring on Instagram, Facebook, and check me out on LinkedIn, Craig White, Men Without Masks, or Craig White Mentoring.
There we go. Thank you so much for coming.
I think that's enough, isn't it, Chris?
That's enough.
Not missed anything?
No.
I don't think.
Covered everything.
Thanks, mate. So I've enjoyed it.
From my heart, thank you so much for putting
No, I'm happy, and as I sit here, I want to come back.
Yeah. But we'll have you on. We'll do a deep dive into sex intimacy. Maybe get Matt. I think Matt would be a good person to on with that.
Yeah, for sure.
Do a discussion.
We can bring a female sex coaching.
We could do that as well, yeah. That'd be good. A little bit of feminine energy in here.
Yeah.
I haven't had a female on the podcast yet.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you, brother.
Pleasure. Cheers, mate.